Hi, I'm Jenny with the Polyp Foundation, and I want to welcome you to the Polyp Foundation. If you have not heard, we are now not just Lysa Polyp anymore. If you remember our history, if you've been with us for a while, we started as an anonymous blog back in 2012, and not because it was my idea to do that. No, someone in the FAP community asked me to start a blog for FAP, and so I did. And I started anonymously. It was a very difficult decision for me to go public. And I didn't make that, it was my choice, yes. But I didn't do that without some encouragement. I received encouragement to do so. A very nice woman located me and shared with me how more impactful what I had started would be if I unmasked myself, so to speak. And so I did. And if you've watched my TikToks, you've read my posts, my articles, previous videos, you'll know that self-love, self-worth, self-esteem were very difficult for me because of my medical trauma. I didn't accept myself as a child who had an ostomy. I had been told that I would only have an ostomy for 3 months, and that's not what happened at all. So I'd have 2 surgeries. I underwent a year of 5 surgeries, a lot of medical PTSD that developed, and with what was believed to be a permanent ileostomy. Now, I grew up around ostomies. My mom had one. My grandpa had one. I thought nothing of them in regards to other people, but I had difficulty accepting for myself. And I internalized that. I internalized my anger towards what had happened, and I became very depressed. I was very angry, very hurt by everything. And so I didn't love myself anymore either. I didn't see any worth. I wasn't supposed to be alive even. It was something that I internalized because I had a near-death experience. And that moment when I remember the ER staff telling my parents how incredible it was that I had survived the night, I internalized that as a message as I wasn't supposed to live. I'm not supposed to be alive. And so a difficulty for me to accept that I was here and everything that I had gone through. And so when I had my ostomy reversed, it was an unexpected thing. It kind of just one day the doctor was like, you know what, I think we might be able to do this. And they did some testing and they got a surgical consult, and the surgeon was like, I think we could do it. And that surgeon moved out of state. We got another surgeon, and he was like, I think we could do it. Let's give it a try. And so I knew going into that surgery that I may wake up still with an ostomy, but I wanted to at least try. And my parents wanted to give me that opportunity. And it worked. It was very difficult. I had a lot of complications because of adhesions, and it was a difficult road. Again, physically and mentally, emotionally, because of my PTSD. But now, over 20 years later, I still have my reversal. But between starting to go to counseling and then having the reversal, it gave me a window to be able to start to develop self-esteem. And so when I started this blog back in 2012, and this lady talked to me and encouraged me to unveil myself to the world, it started a process. It opened doors for me to accept my body, accept my rare diseases, because I also have short bowel syndrome from surgical complications. And so it opened all these doors that I never thought possible. And not just, I'm not even talking about like doors of becoming Lysa Polyp Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm just talking to about doors of self-discovery and love and healing. It really helped blossom this little tiny part of self-esteem that started in high school. like I said, kind of counseling, and then also having my reversal. Now, as an adult, too, I'm in a much better space. And so I believe I would be able to accept having an ostomy again if my reversal were to fail. And that's what I needed to go back to. I think I have the capability now to love myself, to not judge myself like that, to give myself the same love and compassion that I give others. And isn't that the case a lot of times, is that it's hard to give ourselves that love and compassion that we give other people, and we can be our own worst critics. But I believe that I would be able to cope with that just fine now. Sure, there's an adjustment period like there is to anything, but I think I could cope just fine with it now in my older years, in a much better mental space now. But so over the years, right, so I took this woman's advice and I did that, and more and more communities started being built. And it wasn't just me sharing my story and hoping to touch the lives of other people, because my goal was that other people not go through the same experiences I did, the same physical and mental health experiences. I wanted to prevent that for people if at all possible. But every single person in the community touched me too. And I started to not feel alone in it, because that was one of my things as a kid, is I felt alone. Yes, I had my family, but I was angry at them. So I didn't talk to them about anything. I didn't talk to friends. I didn't think they would accept me. If I can't accept myself, why would anyone else accept me? Was my logic back then. It wasn't until I started going to the youth rally camp in high school that I met other people who were my age and were like me. Now, no, we didn't have all the same diseases. There were people with urostomies, colostomies, ileostomies, other types of ostomies. But we could relate to one another. And that's when I started feeling less alone. And so it was all this culmination of things that helped build upon one another. But I knew my mom and my grandpa, and then there was a counselor at the youth rally who also had FAP. So I knew 3 people with FAP until Facebook community pages and the Lives of Polyp blog started. And then I started getting to meet, online, all of you. And it's led to getting to meet some of you in person. And it's just so healing. It has been so healing, the love and the support that the community has given me and that I'm able to give back. And that's kind of how it all started. And it just kind of grew and it grew. And we did different things. We have a podcast now. We started an FAP research fund. I wrote a book, a children's book about FAP, because all this happened when I was a kid. And there's not enough resources for kids about FAP. There's not enough for adults really either. But that's why we're here. Really, that's what we're all about. So now we're a nonprofit. It's wild. It's wild. But if you haven't seen our posts, let me tell you a little bit about it. So we are built on four pillars: education, community, advocacy, and research. And as you can probably tell, these are all very important to me. They are my passions. Because, right, without education, how are we supposed to advocate for ourselves if we don't understand FAP ourselves? Because not all our providers really understand it. So we can ask them questions, but it's not usually enough. So in the education spaces, I find lacking. You have to dig into the research articles, and then you have to dig more to understand the research articles. And it's just surface level for, a lot of the websites that you find blurbs about FAP on. It's just not enough. And so we delve deep into it. We're going to keep delving deeper also. But I think we've got a good, nice depth of information to start with. And we try to make it as easy to understand as possible. And we talk about the genetics, the mutations, the locations, understanding genes, the variance, with between classical FAP and attenuated FAP. We talk about the surveillance that's needed, the treatment options, what life without a colon is like, and so much more. So much more. And we're going to add more. We're working on patient guides. We do have the FAP and Me guide linked. It is one for children that was made by a genetic counselor group. We have the FAP patient guide that was made by the Hereditary Colon Cancer Foundation. Now that was back in 2015, so it is a bit out of date, but we still have that resource even though that organization is no longer around. And then we linked my book, which teaches children about FAP, ostomies, cancer, mental health, advocacy, to help with coping and understanding FAP, even if they're not the ones with it. It also talks about J pouches. I don't want to leave those out. And then we linked to another children's book by Mark Hicks that explains DNA. How fun is that? Okay, I find it exciting. Maybe not everybody else does. But so we have some resources from the community, and we're going to add to those even more. So understanding FAP really gives a leg up for advocating for the care that we need. Part of that is patient empowerment tools, not just education, but how do we advocate for ourselves? And then, of course, there's community, which I talked about how important that is. It's important to me. And it's so easy with rare disease to feel alone. No one should feel alone. And no matter what it is, right? Not just rare disease, but it's so easy in rare disease to feel alone. So we have resources linked for in-person support and online support. It's not just about patient empowerment advocacy, because we got to change public awareness too. So that includes public policy, that includes community awareness, and some different tips and tools for that. Which, we'll keep adding to also. We have events linked because that's another way to raise awareness and connect with others who are going through similar things. Because even if it's not the same rare disease, we can relate to one another. There's so many common experiences. And even if someone doesn't have a rare disease, or they have a chronic illness, it's a different illness, we can relate so much to one another. So let's support one another. And then lastly, research, which we know, if you know me, this is a passion of mine, especially because I am determined that we are going to get past the whole delaying surgery thing, and we're going to go to preventing it. It may not happen in my lifetime, but I am for sure going to make sure that I make a dent in that. And so we're going to be donating to research for FAP specifically. And we're advocating and working towards, helping find innovative treatments for FAP, like I said, so we can stop delaying it and just prevent it altogether. That's my goal. I want to change the landscape of FAP now and in the future. Because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of delaying surgery. Let's get past that. Let's move on. Let's prevent it all together. And so that's the goal. These are the goals. And so we work on that to change it all. And your support, your involvement helps make all those things possible, because these aren't just things for me to do. This is our community. We have to work together. We need to support one another. We need to be there for each other, because I know I learned so much from you guys. There's so much great discourse out there. So let's work together and make some really big changes. And that's really what Life's a Polyp Foundation is all about. We definitely will be having more things in the future. And you guys have ideas? I would love to hear them. Okay? Let's brainstorm. Let's work together. Like I said, if there's a type of resource that you feel is lacking, let me know what it is. Let's see what we can do about that. If you find resources that you don't see linked, share them with me. We'll work on adding more resources, not just materials, but also to other groups out there, other educational sources, things like that. Let's make life a little bit better for one another, and let's change everything. Thank you, guys.